So where would you say this obsession came from? I wouldn't really call it an obsession. I stuck a joke at the end of a video one time and things kind of snowballed from there, and before you know it, it became this ridiculous thing that I couldn't really avoid. Would you say it's had any effect on how you make videos? Not really, no. Like I said, it was this little joke that became its own thing, but it didn't really impede what I was doing with my videos. I had it in the back of my mind for a while, but I just left it there until the right time. And this is the right time? Is that why you're doing this now? I don't think there really is a right time, but I feel like you need to take the opportunity to do it before the idea overstays its welcome. There's a bit of pressure to get it right in the moment, but that's why you do lots of preparation beforehand. I see. Hey, are we doing an interview or a counseling session? I think this is supposed to be an interview. I see. What are you writing down? It's a butt! Of course it is. Butts are the great leveler. Doesn't matter who you are, what kind of person you are, or what you've done in the past, everyone has a butt. In this current age where we strive for equality amongst all sexes, religions, ethnicities, sexual orientations, everyone has a butt. And they're all goddamn beautiful. Unsurprisingly, this has been well represented in video games for quite a while now, and it's about time they got the respect they deserve. However, I'm not here, at least not this week, to shower you with material for your own personal wank bank. For the purposes of this video, I'm looking at butts with a practical application, where the beauty is more than just skin deep. And remember, if you've got any complaints, you know exactly where to shove them. Isaac in The Binding of Isaac is a small naked child who fights his way through legions of horrendous enemies who are also wearing practically nothing and are occasionally disembodied vaginas that vomit blood, but despite this unique set of circumstances, there really aren't a whole load of butts on display. That might explain why Apple refused to put Rebirth on the App Store. They're a big fan of butts. I've seen a few apples that look like butts. But with the Afterbirth DLC that came out last year, which is already some of the best DLC you can get for any game, Binding of Isaac made up for a lot of lost time. Greed mode sees you pick up a bunch of money to spend on items and increase your chance of seeing it through, but waiting for you at the end is no ordinary boss. Literally isn't. Ultra Greed has his HP scaled to your damage unlike all but one boss in the game, but the more significant factor here is Ultra Greed's gloriously bouncing butt. I mean, you wait for so long and when you see it, it's hard not to get emotional, you know? And yet brilliantly, it acts as another distraction in this boss fight about avoiding giant coins and dozens of smaller enemies. You can try and concentrate on the things that actually hurt you, but every time your eyes will be drawn back to Ultra Greed's jiggling behind. It was well worth the wait. The world of Oddworld is one that requires a great amount of stealth. Like, holy shit, so much sneaky otherwise your butt is literally going to end up inside someone's mouth. Circumstances like these dictate that you're probably not going to get a lot of use out of anyone's butt. Arses are many things to many different people, but subtle they usually aren't. And yet you should never rule out farting as a means of communication. Because that's what happens in this game. How many games can you think of that have their own designated fart button? The games in the Oddworld series have a clever little feature called GameSpeak, where you can communicate with friendlies in order to save them and get a decent ending. And of course, with this game being as delightfully unusual as it is, farting is a part of their vocabulary. Even more than that, the protagonist Abe can drink a special brew which will give him explosive farts, and if you use another mechanic in the game where you can possess enemies, you can even, and this is a phrase that I hope to never say again, you can even possess your own farts. Butts are capable of incredible things, but I bet you didn't expect me to mention talking butt farts now, did you? If you did, seek therapy. It's always amazed me that all these fighting game characters with exposed butts or highly defined butts never seem to use them. You've clearly got something there that your designer is very proud of, but surely it would be better if your fighting style incorporated your butt in some way. Is it just me, or is Smash Bros. The greatest thing to ever happen to the fighting game genre? Not only do we have this ridiculous platform for representatives of a wide assortment of franchises to come together and beat the ever-loving shit out of each other, but in order to create some variance in fighting styles, some of these characters use more than just their fists or swords. When they were designing how Wario and Peach would fight, someone somewhere was clearly having a lot of fun. This kind of butt foo comes from different ends of the scale, and yet I can't say with a lot of confidence which one I prefer. Obviously, being Wario comes with certain perks and indeed a rear end that gets about in a big way, but that Wario waft attack genuinely does cause problems because who expects someone to, right in the middle of a combo, fart with as much ferocity as this? Peach, being a princess, went for a slightly more dignified approach, but one that still doesn't lose effectiveness. The Peach Bomber is a move where Peach thrusts her rear in the general direction of the enemy and sends them flying courtesy of the explosion that happens on contact. Begs the question, how exactly is Peach making this explosion? Is she storing gunpowder in there? This Smash Bros. Business is getting out of hand. A challenge was put forth recently for me to try and not include a Metal Gear representative in every single video I make, but come on. Maybe you can structure a good argument for some of the last couple of countdowns I've made, but I put it to you that the entire Metal Gear series is an elaborate showcase of butts of all shapes and sizes that occasionally breaks out into a commentary on societal issues. Choosing between these isn't easy, but let's be honest here, it is pretty easy. How is it that someone like Solid Snake, whose name has been a dick joke for as long as he's been around, is the proud owner of one of the finest butts in gaming? I mean, he is this super soldier genetically modified after America's finest, but I still wouldn't expect it to be such a specimen. The applications are a little sparse in number, but for someone who crawls around a lot on his stomach, his butt provides a pretty large area for camouflage in MGS4. Not so sure his missions would have been so successful if his butt wasn't so good at its job. Later in the game, where Snake has to crawl through a massive microwave, his butt takes on a different and yet equally important role. As Snake is being buffeted on all sides by microwaves, parts of his sneaking suit start to peel away under the heat. It's hard really to tell what's flesh and what's fabric, but for the duration of this sequence, you've got front row seats for Snake's butt, and if that doesn't inspire you to keep going and see this through, then you need to reevaluate your life. Something chronic, my friend. The switch from 2D to 3D and the evolution of the free-moving camera brought butts to the front of everyone's attention. Quite literally, most third-person games will have it proudly on display for you during your adventure. But very few characters when making that transition have actually applied their butt in a productive way. There is one though, and now it's a recognized part of his arsenal. That's almost a pun. Call it a ground pound or a butt stomp, Mario has made himself king of video game butts. It's hard to really put into perspective just how ridiculous Mario's butt is, but a quick mention also to Yoshi's equivalent, which other than obviously having the ability to lay eggs, also has a similar ability to Mario's ground pound that is pretty devastating in Smash Bros. But back to Mario, and the amount of punishment that his ass takes is frankly inspiring. He's the sort of child-friendly protagonist who won't punch a guy, but between his feet and butt, he's got enough to leave any enemy hurting. In the 3D games though, falling from some distance can do damage to you, which is why Mario's titanium tushy is such a remarkable entity. Hitting the ground butt first shakes it with such a huge amount of force, and as a bonus, you take no damage. It can also be used to smash through concrete. Who needs jackhammers, eh? This has been RabbidLuigi, and I'm not exactly sure why Nintendo made it so that Mario would use his butt so often, but it actually gives him an extra layer of character. When you see him go down a slope or a slide at max speed, butt first, you get the sense that this is someone who doesn't really mind putting their ass to work. What we've learned from Mario is your butt can do incredible things. Got a topic that you'd like me to discuss in a countdown? Leave a suggestion in a comment below, but no, we've done the butts video now. What purpose do I have now that the running joke has actually happened? Where do I go from here, where the anticipation and build-up was half the fun? This must be the end. I can see the white light, its endearing purity piercing the depths of my soul. I'm finally free.